Hello children, welcome to Soma ma'am's English classes. Today we are doing the second lesson of the book Snapshots from class 11. Okay, The Address. This story is written by Marga Minko. And in this story, in this video, you will get the summary in details. So let's begin. Marga Minko, you can see in the picture, this is the author of this story. She is a Dutch journalist and a writer. There's a very interesting thing about her name, that her real surname was Menko, but an official accidentally switched the first vowel. So the title changed from Menko to Minko. Okay. Now let's get into the story. So this you are watching the detailed summary of The Address by your English teacher Soma ma'am. Now the story goes like this. The Address, the story is all about the human predicament, the human problems, the distress, the bad things what we face in our life after the war. So the predicament of human after the war. The story narrates how a daughter goes to her native place in Holland in search of her mother's belongings after the war. So the story goes, and here in this story you will come across these characters. Mrs. S, the name is given like this only, Mrs. S. Mrs. S daughter, the name is not given, Mrs. Darling, and Mrs. Darling's daughter. Now the story begins like this. It is narrated by the protagonist. What is protagonist? Protagonist is the central character. Only hero and heroines we don't say. We call it as protagonist. So you learn this word. Protagonist is the central character of any story. So the protagonist here, she narrates how she was given the reception, a cold reception, when she went to her native place after the war in search of her mother's belongings. So in this page you get the whole story in one line. Okay, so now let's see. After the ringing of the bell of the house number 46 in Marconi Street, a woman opened the door. On being introduced, the woman kept staring at her in silence. There was no sign of recognition on her face, as if she was not able to recognize only that who has come to their door. Now we will see who has come to whose door. The woman, Mrs. Darling, was wearing her mother's green knitted cardigan. The narrator could understand that she had made no mistake. She asked the woman whether she knew her mother. The woman could not deny this. She was not able to recognize the author. But when she was asked that whether means she is intentionally not willing to recognize the author. Okay, when we get into the details of this story, we will come across all these expressions. The narrator wanted to talk to her for some time, but the woman cautiously closed the door. The narrator stopped there for some time and then left the place. Now after this, in the subsequent paragraphs, in the subsequent sections, the memories of the narrator's bygone days come to light. Means she goes back to flashback. She remembers all those conversations with her mother. She remembers all the things what her mother used to tell her about this Mrs. Darling. All those things again comes back to her mind. Her mother had provided the address years ago during the war. Okay, so in the detailed video, about this lesson, we will come across all these lines. She went to her home for a few days. She could find that various things were missing. At that time, her mother told her about Mrs. Darling. She happened to be an old acquaintance of the narrator's mother. Lately, she had renewed the contact with her and had been coming there regularly. So this is what has happened in the past. This is a very typical thing about this story, that continuously you will find that the author is going back to flashback to her past, and then again suddenly in the next paragraph you will find that she is talking about the present, what is coming in front of her eyes. That is very typical feature about this story, that continuously the past and present is mixed. This is a modern way of writing short stories. Now every time she then what happens, these are the memories what she remembers that her mother has told her. She had already told, she is no more now, Mrs. S, that is the author's mother, she is no more now. She had already told the author about Mrs. Darling and her old acquaintance as their neighbor, and now she had renewed the contact with her and had been coming there regularly. Every time she left their house, she took something home with her. So you can make out, you must also be having this type of relatives or neighbors. She told that she wanted to save all their nice possessions. The next day, the narrator saw Mrs. Darling going out of their house with a heavy suitcase. This is again the poet is talking about, the author is talking about the past. The author is talking about the past. She had a fleeting glimpse of Mrs. Darling's face. She asked her mother whether the woman lived far away. So this is again, she is thinking about her past, what she now she remembers that what were the things happened. This was before the war. Before the war they had to shift from that place. During that time Mrs. Darling used to take all the things in her suitcase and shift it to her own house. Now, at that time, the narrator's mother told about the address, number 46, Marconi Street. After many days and after the war ended, the narrator was curious to take record of the positions that must still be at number 46, Marconi Street. Children, you get a lot of question. One, what is the significance of the title? So you have to remember all these points very clearly in your mind, because this is the address. The whole story revolves around the address 46 Marconi Street. With this intention, she went to the given address. The author, she went to the given address. The concluding part of the story describes the second visit of the narrator. You get short questions also on this point. How many times she visited this address? This is the second visit, the second part of the story. Not second part, the concluding part, the end part of the story tells us about the second visit. As the narrator's first visit yielded no result, so she planned to go once again. Interestingly, a girl of 15 opened the door now. Her mother, means this is Mrs. Darling's daughter. Mrs. Darling was not at home in the second visit. First visit, you remember, she was not allowed only to enter the house. In the second visit, when Mrs. Darling is not there at home, she entered the house when a small girl of like 15 years, she opened the door. The narrator expressed her wish to wait for her. The girl accompanied her to the passage. The narrator saw an old-fashioned iron candle holder hanging next to a mirror. The girl made her sit in the living room and went inside. The narrator was horrified to find herself in a room with articles familiar to her, but she can't claim. So you can understand the situation of the author. It was so much nostalgic, and she must be feeling very much helpless. Although she knew that all these things, all articles around me are, these all articles belong to my mother, but she couldn't claim them that this is mine and all these things. She found herself in the midst of familiar things, which she longed to see again, but which troubled her in the strange atmosphere. She had no courage to look around her. So you can understand the feeling of the author. Those were all making the author remember her mother's memories, her childhood memories, her all the past memories of her childhood. But she was in such a circumstance, she was under such a condition that she was not able to claim, and she was not willing to look around her. But she no longer had the desire to possess them. She got up, walked to the door, and left the room. She resolved to forget the address and moved on. I have tried to put few illustrative emotional pictures in every page so that you can understand, you can feel the feelings of the author. And this story is all the problems what people face after the war, the predicaments of the aftermath of the war. Okay, so this is a very short story, and it's full of emotions. You have to understand the emotion of the author. And this video was presented by Matchless Mentor. I am your mentor and English teacher, Soma ma'am. So watch the video completely, and again watch the video fully again and again, and read the text nicely. So meet you again in my next video. Till then, bye.